What's going on, you guys? My name is Rayge, and we are back today to talk about my starting five right now that I'm considering. Once Dark Dimension 7 is geared up and ready to go here, I do have some options in mind. Now, obviously, we need to be mindful of future characters and team unlocks, but right now, I do have a tentative game plan, and I want to walk you guys through that. As you can see, March 20th is the official start date of Dark Dimension 7, so we still have a week to prepare, but based on the team that I've selected right now, I think I actually can get the gear and materials within only a couple of months. So as long as I'm, focusing on some of these specific areas and gear, materials, and really just resource management. So that's what I want to walk you guys through today. So first and foremost, I always like to, provide this disclaimer for you folks, just to see what my game plan is. Remember, Dark Dimension is a marathon and not a sprint. It is, obviously going to take time to manage those resources, but you can be smarter as well. It's going to be the quality over quantity. We want to put our resources into, balancing characters that can provide value outside the game mode, because this is a really heavy investment. So you obviously want to be mindful of the meta, but as well, we have an opportunity here to actually follow what the other whales and dolphin spenders are actually paving way, right? They're going to be the ones first attempting this, so keep an open mind. We can have a game plan to set this up, but be ready to pivot where needed, because at the end of the day, they're going to be the ones test driving for us first, and we can utilize this as really valuable experience to learn from and take away. And then finally, just like I mentioned earlier, new toons are coming. The Cabal rework, Panda Pool, and new legendary team. We got Alpha Flight and as well as vampires, right? So we don't know where some of these characters are going to get slotted in terms of a trait standpoint. So that's why we need to keep an open mind and be ready to pivot where needed, because some of them can be very, very invaluable, as we've seen with both Extreme X-Men and as well as the new Hive Mind team, or even honestly just thinking about Pegasus. All of them can have specific value if you look beyond just the Dark Dimension game mode. So always be ready to pivot. And just as a reminder, guys, where's my resume ranking at? In Dark Dimension 6, I was ranked top 1500, completely free to play. And I also utilized just Baby Apocalypse in my initial Dark Dimension 6 run through. So just to give you a bit of insight here that, yes, I'm going to be working my butt off to see how far I can go again with this game mode. But I was fortunate to actually rank in the top rankings here, and everything documented on my channel, which is great to see if you guys need assistance or help with that. But we're going to be attacking it with the same mentality, which is management resources and making sure that we're carefully watching for the value of characters and really persisting and ultimately getting the job done, meeting those personal goals that we want to hit. So, having said that, guys, what is new in Dark Dimension 7 before I dive into my team? Well, the only thing that's been added is the Mythic trait, and they've kind of switched up the orders here in terms of how the missions are going to be set up. So we now have 3 nodes initially in the beginning here with no traits, and then we have 2 nodes of City, as well as 2 for Global, Cosmic. You can't use any mythic or legendary characters. So characters like Skrull, Kestrel, Dr. Doom, Apocalypse, these were characters that were providing a lot of value in Dark Dimension 6 initially. But now, because of this slight switch there, they're pushing all the legendary and mythic characters to the very end of Dark Dimension 7, which I don't recommend building up then, because they could very well, although some of these characters are the best in the game, they could very well serve to be a bottleneck and prevent you from even starting. So thankfully, they can be used in the first 3 nodes if you do want to partake, but then you do have to start kind of looking into where you need to finite and tune up the characters. So for me personally, I'm all about making progress every day and making that 1 attempt or 2 if you want to do power cores refresh. So I am going to be more focused on city characters, but I am going to be considering obviously the future sections afterwards, so such as Global or Cosmic. Usually I try to have an emphasis on that, so that way I can just keep the train moving and get that 1 attack each day and so forth. That's ultimately what allowed me to even hit the top 1500 ranking in Dark Dimension 6. So my starting team, guys. This is kind of what I have slotted in right now. I put a lot of thought into them, because each and every one of them do have value right now outside of just Dark Dimension. So you're not going to be losing anything from this standpoint. But as you can see, both Kraven and Vulture need the most work. But I want to walk you guys through how I chose this team and why I chose this team. So as you can see, first off, they're each in a different trait category, which you definitely want to maximize, especially when you're thinking about the resource management. You want to burden yourself with one specific trait. So, we have Robbie at Mystic being average, as in, he's not cheap, but he's also not expensive. So he's a nice in-between. Kraven's cheap and he's a skill character. We have Vulture also being cheap at tech. We have Miss Marvel Hard Light being a mutant on average. And then finally, we have Captain America being bio average. So overall, this team is actually pretty feasible. It's pretty decent in terms of the affordability wise. And all of them, I do like the fact that they share a different unique. So Miasma, we got Molecular Cloth, Hammer Tech, Promethium, and Vibranium. And all of them having a different unique means I do not need to, hone in and focus on building up multiple uniques. It's going to give us an opportunity here to build up the other uniques as well over time, especially with these 5. The other reason I really like about this, guys, is that, as I alluded to earlier in the breakdown, the majority of those characters were city. So not only am I going to be using the starting 5 to do the first 3 nodes, but 4 out of the 5 members are in the city section. So I only really need to bring in 1 more additional city character, and then I'll be ready for nodes 4 and 5. And then at that point, hopefully, that's going to give me enough time to obviously add in the rest of the global characters, plus minus any of the new teams or characters that may have already got reworked or getting added, such as some X-Men and so forth. So yeah, it's just good to be mindful. You have to just be able to pivot, right? And I think this team here gives me the opportunity and flexibility, because more than half the members can partake in the 2 nodes following the initial 3, where you don't need any requirements. Now, what I really also like to take a step further is taking a look at, once I invest in these 5 characters, if I do, who do they gear share with? Are there other characters that's going to be kind of blocking me? And I tried to be mindful of the meta beyond Dark Dimension as well. So you can see, respectively, Robbie, he does have the same exact gear with Dormammu and Doctor Doom. So it's definitely going to be something you need to consider if you do want to plan to bring up Robbie. But he's just so good in Dark Dimension. He is a god. So I just feel like he's a must-have. We need to bring him in. And then either Dormammu or Doctor Doom is going to take the hit. But thankfully, those characters are mythic, so we can wait way down later on to build them up. Kraven does have gear being shared with Spiderweaver, who's a character I'm strongly considering for the global section, just given Spiderweaver's versatility, the stun, as well as damage mitigation. So something I need to consider, especially since, the global section is actually right after the city, so it's back to back. But Kraven also synergizes extremely well with Robbie, especially with his bleeds. He's got an ability block, and the synergy with Vulture here, being both Sinister 6, Superior 6 characters, synergy, it's immense. And with them being really part of the meta, right? Robbie being part of the arena meta right now and being part of that top 3, top 5 team in the game. Kraven and both Vulture are part of that top 3, top 5 team in the game with the Superior 6, Sinister 6. Just using all game modes, there's immense value. Vulture, turn meter rewind. He's got some great debuffs that he can land on the enemies, and he's super cheap and fast, right? I really like the fact that he's just such a plug and play versatile character, and he can be used in all the Sinister 6 team combinations. And gear share wise, he does share with Red Goblin, so I'm not going to be breading obviously Red Goblin too high, but there is that slight kind of overlap if you want to be building up Hive Mind for the new incursion raids. Something to be mindful of there. Miss Marvel Hardlight, still completely part of the arena meta right now. She's not really a counter, kind of a pseudo counter to Apocalypse, but she's going to be very strong going forward because of Apocalypse's value going up as a result of Black Knight countering Super Scroll, so that was kind of nice. Keep in mind though, she does share Promethium with some notable characters such as Gamora and Namor, who's gotten that recent rework of part of Cabal being a top. It's probably going to be the best offensive crossbow team, right? So something you need to consider if you want to bring up Namor. Miss Marvel Hardlight may be the one taking a dip here in terms of gear and resource investment. And then last but not least, I really like Captain America because he's going to have that battery synergy. Him and Hardlight are going to be tanking. Ideally, probably one of them will be a healer, so that way we get a little bit of sustain on this team. But I like the synergy of them being really strong tanks, supplying energy to each other. Hardlight being a little slower than Captain America, but America can at least ground defense up, energy, and try to add in that little bit of pseudo protection with this team, right? Vibranium, not actually many characters utilize this unless you're building up Wakandans, but they're no longer part of the meta. So the only one you need to be considering here is Ironheart Mark II, just because obviously they're the part of the meta and the tech nodes for an incursion rate. So you don't want to bring up Ironheart too high because it may potentially conflict with Captain America. And then icing on top, I am also currently using Captain America in the bio nodes for the incursion as well. And with him being part of the out of time meta combined with Black Knight and Carter, they have immense value right now. So all these characters have, huge value outside of just this game mode, but as well, they're going to be making my roster better and fuller. And the best part is, like I said, all different traits, all moderate to cheap, and no one's sharing the same uniques, and that's really what we need to be thinking about, guys. So let me know what you think in the comments below. I think this is a very solid team, at least for the first starting 3 nodes, and then following that, I need to add a 5th character to obviously complement and start the city section, but then Captain America likely will be part of my Dark Dimension 7 team as well for global. Thank you for your time as always, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.